society would have you believe that intelligence is measured in grades, diplomas, or the memorization of facts. But these are the trappings of a system designed to produce conformity rather than mastery. True intelligence is not about storing information. It is about the power to direct thought, the ability to transform raw ideas into definite action, and the courage to use knowledge in the pursuit of a definite purpose. A dangerously smart individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know and how to acquire what he needs when he needs it. And the world has never feared knowledge in the pursuit of a definite with average intelligence, for such a man is harmless, predictable, and easily swayed by the will of others. A dangerously smart individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know, learns to discipline and how to acquire, harness what he needs when he needs desire, and the world has never feared knowledge in the pursuit of a definite average intelligence, for he possesses such a man is harmless, predictable, and easily swayed by the will of others. A dangerously smart individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know, learns to discipline how to acquire, harness what he needs when he needs desire, and the courage has precision to direct his mind with purpose and to seize opportunity with relentless knowledge. Such a man is definite average intelligence, for such a man is harmless, predictable, and easily swayed by the will of others. A dangerously smart individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know, learns to discipline how to acquire, harness what he needs when he needs decision to direct his mind with purpose and to seize opportunity with relentless knowledge. Such a man is definite average intelligence, for such a man is harmless, predictable, and easily individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know, learns to discipline how to acquire, harness what he needs when he needs decision to direct his mind with purpose and to seize opportunity with your fate. Because you no longer allow random thoughts to rule your actions, you no longer live as a slave to impulse. You command your mind. Never fear knowledge. Such a man is definite average intelligence, for such a man is easily individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know, learns to discipline how to acquire, harness what he needs when he needs decision to direct his mind with purpose and to seize opportunity with your fate. Because you no longer allow random thoughts to rule your actions. He studies no longer live as a slave to impulse. You command your mind. Never fear knowledge. Such a man is definite average intelligence, for such a man is easily individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know, learns to discipline how to acquire, harness what he needs when he needs decision to direct his mind with purpose and to seize opportunity with your chance. Because you no longer allow random thoughts to rule your actions. He studies no longer live as a slave to impulse. You command your mind. Never fear knowledge. Such a man is definite average intelligence, for such a man is easily individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know, learns to discipline how to acquire, harness what he needs when he needs decision to direct his mind with purpose and to seize opportunity with your chance. Because you no longer allow random thoughts to rule your actions. He studies no longer live as a slave to impulse. You command your mind. Never fear knowledge. Such a man is definite average intelligence, for such a man is easily individual is not one who knows everything, but one who knows how to use what he does know, learns to discipline how to acquire, what he needs when he needs decision to direct his mind with purpose. A ship without a compass, drifting. How can this knowledge be used? How can this idea be applied? How can this challenge be transformed into an opportunity? He measures intelligence not by what is known, but by what is done. He lives by the truth that knowledge alone is powerless, but knowledge acted upon is irresistible force. To redefine intelligence, one must learn to see it not as a static trait, but as a living force. It is not something you either have or do not have. It is something that can be developed, refined, and magnified by deliberate practice. Every man possesses within him the seeds of dangerous intelligence, but few water. Those seeds with persistence, concentration, and desire. Most allow their thoughts to wander in idle daydreams. But the man who dares to discipline his imagination and harness his will becomes a man of power, for he can transform intangible thought into tangible results. This is why being dangerously smart has little to do with academic brilliance and everything to do with practical wisdom. It is not about how many theories you can recite, but how many obstacles you can overcome. It is not about how much information you can hold, but how boldly you can act when others hesitate. The world will not reward the man who merely knows. It will reward the man who applies his knowing with precision and persistence. And that is the first step in becoming dangerously smart. The foundation of becoming dangerously smart rests upon the mastery of thought, for thought is the starting point of all riches and all achievements. Every invention, every discovery, every empire was first a thought in the mind of a single individual. The man who controls his thoughts controls his destiny, while the man who drifts upon
Random impulses becomes the victim of circumstance.
Thought is the only thing over which man has absolute control, and yet it is the very thing most men allow to run wild without discipline, without direction, without purpose. When a man learns to focus his mind, he awakens a power that the masses never discover. He begins to shape reality itself. Controlled thought is the difference between the dreamer who merely wishes and the dreamer who accomplishes when desire is vague. It remains a fantasy, but when desire is linked to definite plans, it transforms into an unstoppable force. The dangerously smart individual understands that every action springs from thought, and therefore he guards his thoughts with the vigilance of a warrior. He refuses to permit doubt, fear, or negative suggestion to occupy his mental throne. He cultivates a garden of purpose and expels every weed of hesitation, for he knows that the mind once disciplined becomes the greatest weapon in the conquest of success. The cultivation of controlled thought requires persistence. Just as steel is forged in fire, so is the mind forged in repeated effort. The man who wishes to command his intelligence must practice directing his thoughts toward his aim every day, until concentration becomes his natural state. He cannot allow himself to drift. He cannot permit distraction to scatter his powers. He must remind himself constantly that what the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, but only if the mind remains fixed upon its definite purpose without wavering or compromise. The world belongs not to the scattered thinker, but to the man of one. The difference between mediocrity and mastery lies not in how much a man knows, but in how well he uses what he knows. When Edison worked tirelessly to perfect the light bulb, he did not rely upon an endless collection of ideas. He relied upon one idea, and the persistence to test it until it became reality. When Carnegie built his empire of steel, he did not attempt to master every field of knowledge. He mastered the art of organizing men, and applied that knowledge until it produced
Wealth beyond imagination.
When Ford revolutionized the automobile industry, he did not drown himself in irrelevant learning. He held to one vision and applied it with relentless determination. In each of these men, knowledge served as a tool, but application created empires. Dangerously smart individuals treat every fragment. They do not collect facts for the sake of pride. They collect them with the intent to use them. They are craftsmen of the mind who take the tools at hand and shape them into instruments of progress. They never ask, "What do I know?" They ask, "How can I use what I know?" They never waste time hoarding information that will lie dormant. Instead, they direct their energy toward the mastery of the few essentials that move them closer to their definite purpose. The true test of intelligence is not measured in examinations or debates, but in results. The man who can build a bridge, feed a city, inspire a nation, or solve a pressing problem demonstrates more intelligence than the scholar who spends his life in speculation with nothing to show for it. The dangerously smart man knows that results are the only measure that matters, and so he acts. While others talk, he builds. While others boast, he creates. While others criticize, the world does not reward intentions. It rewards achievements, and achievements are born only from the application of knowledge. This principle is the dividing line between thinkers who dream and thinkers who build, between the man who hopes and the man who accomplishes. When you train yourself to apply knowledge, you become more than an observer of life. You become a participant. You seize control of circumstance, instead of waiting for it to favor you. And every time you apply what you know, your capacity expands, your confidence grows, and your influence deepens. This is the mark of the dangerously smart man. He does not hoard wisdom. He uses it to carve his destiny. No man has ever risen to great heights without the aid of other minds, for the human brain is but a single instrument, and its power, though immense, is multiplied beyond measure when joined with others in harmony. The principle of the mastermind is the very foundation upon which fortunes are built and empires sustained. A single mind may conceive vision, but it is through the combined intelligence of many that vision is expanded, perfected, and brought into reality. The dangerously smart man does not isolate himself in pride. He surrounds himself with allies whose skills complement his own, whose knowledge fills the gaps of his own understanding, and whose faith strengthens his will when it falters. It is a tragic error of the average man to believe that success is achieved alone, for solitude breeds limitation, and pride blinds the individual to his weaknesses. But the wise man acknowledges that his power increases in proportion to the minds he unites with his own. When two minds meet with perfect harmony and a definite purpose, a third invisible force is created, a force greater than either mind could produce alone. This is the secret that made Carnegie the master of steel. It was not his knowledge of metallurgy that made him wealthy, but his genius for surrounding himself with men who knew more than he did, and who worked together in a spirit of unity toward a single aim. The dangerously smart individual recognizes that true intelligence lies not only in the ideas he holds, but in his ability to draw upon the intelligence of others, knows that no man can master every field, no man can acquire every perspective, but when he brings together men of vision, men of courage, men of expertise, he multiplies his capacity 1,000-fold. He becomes the center of a living brain, trust whose collective wisdom produces answers that no single mind could discover. This is why the mastermind principle is the greatest of all tools for turning thought into fortune. To practice this principle requires more than merely gathering people. It requires harmony, for without harmony, the collective power dissolves into conflict and weakness. The dangerously smart man, therefore, selects his allies with care. He chooses only those who are loyal to the vision, only those whose spirit is aligned with his own, only those who will contribute rather than drain. He knows that one disloyal mind can corrupt the entire structure, and so he guards his circle as a king guards his throne. When unity is preserved, the mastermind becomes an unbending circumstance to its will. History is filled with proof of this truth. No general ever won a war alone. No leader ever built a nation by himself. No inventor ever brought a creation to market without the aid of others. Behind every figure who appears to stand alone, there is always a circle of strong minds working in harmony with him. The dangerously smart man understands this law and applies it ruthlessly. He wastes no time in prideful isolation, but builds alliances, cultivates loyalty, and draws from the wisdom of others until his vision becomes too strong to be denied. He becomes not only a man of knowledge, but a center of power, for he has harnessed the collective intelligence of many to magnify his own. There is a force that separates those who merely wish from those who achieve, and that force is persistence. Intelligence without persistence is like a sword left in its sheath. It has the power to conquer, but never leaves its place. Persistence is the fire that keeps the mind alive. When the winds of discouragement blow, it is the steel that keeps a man steady. when the ground beneath him shakes. It is persistence that transforms ordinary men into extraordinary forces, and the dangerously smart man understands that without persistence, every other quality of the mind lies dormant. He knows that ideas may be brilliant, and plans may be perfect, but without this unyielding determination to push forward through difficulty, they crumble into dust. The history of all great success is the history of persistence. Edison failed thousands of times in his attempt to harness electric light, yet he pressed on with the confidence that each failure brought him closer to triumph. Ford was ridiculed for his dream of producing an affordable automobile, yet he persisted until his vision transformed the very way the world traveled. Lincoln suffered defeat after defeat in politics, yet he pressed on until he reached the presidency and became one of the most revered leaders of history. Each of these men was more than intelligent, they were dangerously smart, for they coupled their knowledge with the unwavering will to persist in the face of defeat. The man who quits at the first sign of resistance will never know the full measure of his intelligence, for difficulties are not barriers. They are stepping stones. Every setback carries with it the seed of equal or greater advantage. But only the persistent man finds that seed because he continues digging while others abandon the field. Persistence sharpens the mind. It forces the individual to think more clearly, to plan more carefully, to innovate more boldly. When the first attempt fails, the persistent man tries again with new wisdom, and each attempt draws him nearer to mastery. Dangerously smart individuals embrace persistence, not as a burden, but as a discipline. They know that no gold has ever been mined without removing tons of earth. No victory has ever been won without countless drills and battles. No great achievement has ever been realized without years of labor. They accept that persistence
Is the price of greatness, and they pay it willingly.
While others complain of hardship, they march through it with steady hearts. While others collapse under failure, they rise with renewed determination. Persistence becomes their companion, their shield and their weapon. The world has little respect for the man who quits, but it bows in admiration to the man who persists. The dangerously smart man leaves no room in his mind for surrender. He has burned the bridges behind him, so that there is no path but forward. He conditions his mind to see defeat as temporary, discouragement as fuel, and obstacles as teachers. Persistence makes him invincible, for no force on earth can permanently hold back the man who refuses to quit. When intelligence and persistence unite, destiny itself bends to the will of the individual. Imagination is the workshop of the mind. It is the power that takes raw ideas and shapes them into form. It is the spark that turns invisible thought into visible achievement. Every invention, every enterprise, every fortune began first as a picture in the mind of a man who dared to imagine. And the dangerously smart individual understands that imagination is not a fanciful pastime, but the very foundation of progress. He knows that facts alone will never build empires, that logic alone will never create beauty, and that reason without vision is like a lamp without oil. It shines for a moment and then goes dark. Imagination is the oil that fuels the fire of creation. There are two kinds of imagination: synthetic and creative. Synthetic imagination rearranges old ideas. It takes what already exists and combines it into new patterns. It is the force behind improvements, refinements, and new applications. It is powerful but limited. Creative imagination is the fountain from which entirely new concepts are born. It draws upon the infinite intelligence. It opens the mind to ideas that have never before been known. It is the channel through which great discoveries and divine inspiration flow. The dangerously smart man cultivates both. He rearranges what is known while reaching into the unknown to pull forth ideas that transform the world. The man without imagination is condemned to repeat the past. He builds his life upon the blueprints of others. He accepts limitation as finality, and spends his years walking in circles around the same old ground. But the man of imagination breaks free. He sees possibilities where others see only walls. He envisions opportunities hidden within problems and wealth, hidden within struggle. When Edison imagined the electric light, the world thought him mad. When the Bright brothers imagined flight, they were ridiculed as dreamers. When Carnegie imagined steel cities, others scoffed, yet their imagination coupled with persistence reshaped the destiny of humanity. Dangerously smart man never allows his imagination to atrophy. He feeds it daily, keenly, and surrounds himself with beauty and inspiration. He allows himself
To dream beyond the ordinary.
not in idle fantasy but in deliberate creation. He takes time to picture his goals as if they were already achieved, to see himself living the success he desires, to feel the emotions of victory long before it arrives. This act of visualization strengthens his faith, sharpens his focus, and sets his subconscious mind to work on finding ways to bring the vision into reality. Imagination, thus, becomes not only a tool of creativity, but a magnet, drawing the resources, people, and circumstances necessary to achieve. Never born from caution, but from imagination. The dangerously smart man dares to imagine a future greater than the present. He does not limit himself to what is but continually stretches toward what can be. He wields imagination like a sword, cutting through impossibility and opening paths where none existed before. It is through imagination that he transcends the ordinary and enters the realm of the extraordinary. For imagination is the beginning of all miracles and the seed from which all achievement grows. Knowledge